Chinese Americans have a right and responsibility. We have a right to participate in the civic culture, to be part of institutions, to run for office, to raise our voice, to demand equality. We have a responsibility too. Chinese Americans, because we understand a little bit, even if we're assimilated, whatever generation we are, I can eat chicken feet. So that by itself, I like chicken feet. So that by itself is a way that I can demonstrate just a little bit of bridge building. And it isn't very much, except that when you break bread, when you share food, when you share culture, that leads to so much more. So Chinese Americans have a responsibility to be interpreters and translators. Some of that's literal. When I was a kid growing up, I was an interpreter for my parents if they had a dispute with the telephone company and I was 8 years old because they thought my English would be more fluent. But the responsibility to interpret, to translate, isn't just about literal interpretation and translation, it's also about the figurative, the metaphorical, the symbolic. It's not that the Chinese need Chinese Americans, I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to say that, but we want to help. We want to say, let's go to a baseball game, and here's how it works. And so on, and then we can say to our American, our white American, or black American, or Hispanic American coworkers, neighbors, and friends, let me take you to dim sum. And from that beginning, from that genuine, human, warm interaction, we can do so much more. So Chinese Americans have this obligation. I have the great honor to lead a nonprofit group, Committee of 100 by Lin Hui. We were founded by the famous architect I.M. Pei, by the cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and by 4 other of the most prominent Chinese Americans. And we work on bridge building between the United States and China and the civic engagement of Chinese Americans, because we believe that Chinese Americans can play this unique role that others cannot, because we're able to see from both sides of the Pacific Ocean. And we always make clear, we are Americans. 我是美国人，但是我也是华人. And for Chinese Americans, there is not a contradiction between being an American, a U.S. citizen, loyal to this nation, and yet enjoying dim sum, knowing a little bit about Chinese calligraphy, wanting to learn more, revering one's elders, seeing the benefit of Confucian ideals. So we can blend and mix and match, and that's what the future is about. It's about, in American pop culture, the mashup, the idea that culture is always changing and you can take these pieces and create something new. Technological advance has always been about that, but now we see that cultural change also is about taking these pieces and creating something that people haven't seen before, that isn't wholly Chinese, it's not wholly American either, it's Chinese American. China and America are bound together. Their fates are intertwined. These economies are the largest in the world. This is where technological advance is coming from. It's either coming from the United States or China. And for the rest of our lifetimes, every one of us who is alive, this relationship between the United States and China will affect us. That's why it's so important for all of us to learn a little bit about both cultures. And for those of us who are lucky and have those dual perspectives, to be able to use that to benefit both nations, both peoples, to be able to say, inevitably, as in every relationship, there will be misunderstandings, there will be disagreements, there may even be tension and anger. But we're almost always better off if we can mediate that, resolve it, if we can work together and cooperate, reduce the tension rather than ratchet it upward. Chinese Americans can do something because they are Chinese American. That's what I hope we will realize, that it is our right, it is our responsibility.